Hey there, mystery solvers. Chad here. I wanted to take a moment of your time before you get to this week's episode to tell you about a couple of things. First off, this week we officially hit 10,000 total downloads. This may not seem like that many, but when we started, Colt and I didn't even expect to get 100 downloads per episode. Now we have, according to Buzzsprout, about 400 listeners who tune in every week, and it seems to be growing. So I just want to thank all of you guys for tuning in every week to listen to me ramble and spout crazy shit that no one could logically believe to be true. And also, I want to ask that you keep telling people about the podcast, keep spreading the good word. Secondly, due to the constraints of my new job where I work roughly 60 hours a week, I cannot reliably put out episodes on Thursdays anymore. So to get the podcast back on some semblance of a regular schedule, the most mysterious day of the week will now be Saturday. I apologize if this causes any inconvenience for some listeners. I know that waiting the extra 2 days for your fix of mystery solving is excruciating, but this will allow for us to stay on schedule, and we'll give an entire week after recording to get editing done and put out a quality episode. We appreciate your understanding, and now that that business is out of the way, enjoy this week's episode featuring Abby Rose as the guest host. Was the man from Taured really a time traveler? Was he some sort of sexual deviant? What does my dead great-grandfather think of this mystery? Stick around and you might just find out the answers to these questions on today's episode of Unsolved Mysteries. Solved! Welcome to the show, everyone. I am Chad Kimmons, your humble host and PhD in solving unsolved mysteries. I'm very, very humble. I just want to make sure everybody understands that, just how humble I really am. It is Thursday again, and that means that we have a brand new mystery coming at you hard and fast. And my guest today is the lovely and talented Abby Rose, co-host of the podcast Personalized with Vince King. And thanks for joining me today, Abby.
Oh my gosh, thank you so incredibly much for having me.
So why don't you tell the listeners a little bit about yourself?
Hello, my name is Abby Rose. I work as an actor. I do stage acting and voiceover, and I'm very hesitant to ever say screen actor. I have very little experience, but that does happen sometimes.
Hey man, if you've been on screen, you're a screen actor.
I guess it's it's always been for like commercial stuff. I keep finding myself in doing commercial work, whether that's like being filmed for commercials or doing voiceover for commercials. It's just weird to be like, ugh. Sometimes I get behind camera.
Do you say it like
or
that?
It depends on the day.
Sometimes I have to go to Transylvania.
Sometimes I have to put on an outfit and sit down and they say, okay, you be model now. And I'm like, please don't call me model.
So, what do you know about the man from Taured?
Very little, if not nothing.
Okay. Well, that's good, because it means you're going into it fresh, and this is a really good one. So let's dive right in. Time travel is something that has been debated and theorized about since man first understood the concept of time. There are countless films, TV shows, books, comics, manga, etc., all revolving around time travel and parallel universes. Now, what's the obsession with this concept of time travel? For some, it might just be a curiosity of seeing what it was like to live in the past. Some might be interested in seeing what the future looks like. Others still might try to change the future by changing the past.
The fate of history?
Go back and do something to change the past. I don't know why I can't say this the way I want to.
Changing the fate of history?
Yeah, somebody might want to go kill Hitler. There we go. And stop World War II. But as we have seen, I mean, if movies have taught me anything, that's not. If Doctor Who has taught me anything, you can't, because there are fixed moments in time anyway. So if all this seems a little far out for the podcast, because we normally try to stay away from like paranormal stuff, don't worry, it does tie in. So now we're going to get into our story. And our story starts on a hot summer day in July of 1954. I should put on my NPR voice. Welcome to Unsolved Mysteries Solved. Today my guest host is Abby Rose, and we'll be discussing the lactating of dolphins. No.
What? What? I'm very sorry.
Today
Excuse
we'll
me.
be discussing dolphin lactation and migration habits.
Did you know that hippopotamus milk is pink?
I think I did. I know yak milk is pink.
What?
Yeah.
Wonder what in milk could be pink? Like what mineral?
Oh. I just know that because there was a do you remember the old Jackbox games?
Oh yeah. Dude, I own a number of them.
Well, there was one on one of the You Don't Know Jack games that was I don't remember exactly what it was, but there were different colors, and if you it was basically yak's milk is pink, but they also had brown, and if you click brown, it's no. If a yak gives you a brown liquid, don't put it on your cereal.
I love You Don't Know Jack. Oh, so good.
that was so funny. Anyway, a well-dressed traveler landed at a Tokyo airport with a passport that had obviously seen quite a bit of wear. He'd clearly been using it a lot. And as he was going through customs, he handed over his passport and ID, and he started making small talk with the customs officer. He said that he arrived on business and stated the name of the company that he was with. And then he said something that brought pause. He said that he was from a far-off country called Taured, which is a country that does not exist. Customs were automatically baffled. No one had ever heard of this country. I mean, this is the 1950s. The man himself was baffled because he had never met someone who had never heard of his country. And apparently it was like a major superpower in the world, according to him. So, I mean, there's no way that nobody would have heard of his country. It's not like some little, country down in Africa that takes up the space that my apartment takes up or something.
It would have to be at least large enough to have an airport, I suppose.
Exactly. Well, not necessarily. Well, yeah, because if he has a passport from... Anyway, regardless, yes, it's supposedly a large country. Now, this was post-World War II, so security weren't taking any chances. And even though they were starting to believe that this might just be a hoax. So the man was led into an interrogation room, and he was grilled by security. Where had he come from? Taured. What was he doing here? He was a businessman who had traveled internationally for over 5 years now. He spoke multiple languages, including his native language of French and Japanese. He had currency in his wallet from a bunch of different countries. He was in Japan on business for his second time this year, all this stuff. They asked him if he had any proof of his claims, and he provided his passport, again, well-worn, and ID, which were issued from a country called Taured. So they asked him where Taured was. He said it was in Europe. They asked him, could he point to it on a map? When he was given to a map, he pointed to the Principality of Andorra, which borders France and Spain, or did at the time. Mm-hmm. But he seemed really perplexed that it was called Andorra on the map. And he claimed that Taured had been in existence for over 1,000 years. Now, after hours of grilling this man, during which he refused to admit that he was playing a hoax and continued to insist that he was telling the truth, the security at the airport located a company in Tokyo that matched the name the man gave. When they contacted the company said that they had offices in other countries, but nowhere in a place called Taured. So this is starting to get a little weird. Furthermore, they had never heard of the man, despite his insistence that he had been there earlier that year. So, security called the hotel where the man said he was staying for his visit. They had no record of the man or any reservation under his name. And having no way of verifying anything that the man had said, further investigation was opened and he was placed under guard in a hotel near the airport. When morning came, the man and his luggage had mysteriously vanished, as if into thin air, back from whence he came. The room didn't look lived in, the bed had not been slept in, the bathroom looked as if housekeeping had just been there, and the room only had one point of entry and exit, and the guards had been stationed outside the door, and they had seen nothing throughout the night. They mounted a search for this man, but he was never found. He was never seen again. Bum, bum, bah! So, what are your thoughts so far? I mean, that's the whole story. So, I mean, this might be a little bit of a short episode because that is the whole story. But what are your thoughts so far?
My thoughts are, there's something interesting. You said it was 1954, right?
Yes.
I believe that's the year that they date as like the Common Era. Like that's the first year of like the CE Common Era. It sounds less so like time travel and more so like parallel universe, like some kind of overlap. Part of me wants to be like, oh yeah, there was like a tear, like a dimensional tear. Do you know what I mean? Where it's like somewhere did the dimensions just like overlap one another, and it was like a brief moment in which those like things overlapped and he existed in both at the same time. I don't know. It definitely gives me more parallel universe kind of vibes than it does like time travel-y kind of vibes.
Right.
Because I don't know if he was like dressed for, I don't know. I feel like that would have to be something to ask. If you think somebody is like not completely there, you're like, what year is it? Who is the president? Like that's the kind of stuff you ask when somebody's like fallen unconscious.
Yeah, that's definitely a lot of people have postulated that, maybe he was from a parallel universe. The time travel thing is just, I don't know why everybody fixates on the time travel part, but that seems to be the biggest theory, like among people who believe that this happened.
There's a couple of like, I think if you look into like different kind of time travel theories, there's a couple of different like photo evidences in which like it seems like there's a person. It's very, very like Doctor Who-esque, where it's like there's a person who looks to be dressed very similarly in a lot of different photos or that have occurred throughout history since, photography was a thing. But also like people can look the same.
Yeah. If he was a time traveler, I just hope that he didn't like get back to where he was at and, like, where'd you go? I think you mean, when did I go? I hate that trope so much. Like,
it's one of those things where it's like, if he was a time traveler, was it that, did he break? Like, was he not supposed to do that? And like, it's one of those things where it's like, we have to get out of here at a certain amount of time or else everything falls apart. Or it's like, our existence is destroyed as it is. It's like, well, what if, if it was a time travel thing, did his existence, like, get destroyed? Like, did it implode but from, like, physics?
Physics. There's nothing physics-related to time travel. Unless maybe if you're talking, like, quantum physics. But, like,
I don't know. It's one of those things where it's like, if matter can't be created or destroyed, right? Matter can't be created or destroyed, like transferred. Same with energy. It's like, well, if somebody time travels, like, how do you adjust that? And it's like, well, maybe he just snapped back. Well, I don't know.
Your whole, so did physics get him in the end? Like, I don't, like, he ran out of time and the ceiling fan fell on his head and killed him? I don't.
Homie ran out of time and physics got him. Gravestone, man from Taured. Death, physics got him.
There's physics police and they just randomly show up and, hey, you're breaking the world, bro. You gotta go. You gotta go.
Ooh, sorry, guy. You broke the law of time.
So the most prominent theory here is that this is just an urban legend that someone made up and it got passed along, like the haunted house on the hill over there that, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. But there are so many people that even today that witnessed, maybe not witnessed it, but like they were there when it happened and can attest to it. Mm-hmm. So maybe it's an urban legend and maybe these people are just like feeding into it. Because, like, I know when I was a kid, the urban legend of the old man at the end of the street who eats people, like, oh, yeah, I was in his yard and he, like, tried to drag me inside. No, he didn't. I was never in his yard. But I wanted to sound cool, so I was saying that I was. So maybe that's the case. A lot of people believe it maybe just, like, a huge hoax. But that's a lot of people to get in on this hoax.
It's like late. Like it'd be different if it was something that was clocked way earlier, but 1954? Like that's like 70 years ago.
Right.
Those people who interacted with him could probably still be alive.
No, there are. I found a couple of videos, and I might splice in some audio from them, of one of the customs agents or something was talking about it, and he was just like, yeah, it was really weird. Like, he handed us a valid passport and ID, and it was from a country we had never heard of. We have no clue what happened. Like you can find all kinds of documentaries on this online. Got a couple more theories that are a little more out there. One such theory suggests that, like you were saying, that he's from a parallel universe where this country Taured existed, and like somehow maybe when he was en route in his flight, maybe the plane went through like a parallel or a wormhole or something that shot him out into this dimension. But that doesn't explain the fact that, like, if that were true, everybody on the flight would have been from that universe.
That's what I'm saying. It's like, where was everyone else on the plane from? Like, where was the plane coming from?
I don't know that it was mentioned where it was coming from, just that it was in Tokyo.
Did he give a flight? What if he just, like, rolled up in this airport? Like, it's not as if he didn't get off a plane.
He supposedly came from the gates, like where you would come from if you got off a plane. Now, being the 50s, I don't know what security's like over in Japan now. Nor do I know what it was like in the 50s, obviously. But let me tell you, I was there for the great security wars of 1954.
1954.
It only lasted 20 minutes. What was in the middle of
He had tightened security after this incident, for damn sure.
So, I mean, they're like, maybe he was able to come into the airport and then like circle over by where the gates are at and like blend in with some people coming off a plane. I don't know. But yeah, also, how did he get back to his own universe? Like, if he went through some kind of wormhole, maybe the universe was correcting itself. Maybe he got hit with physics.
If it was a rift, like, I imagine, because, like, they talk about, like, parallel universe shit happening with rifts, or even, like, with the,
oh, yes, I'm familiar.
Frickin' frick-frack.
Very familiar with this theory.
The effect that happens when people all, like, remember something incorrectly.
Like, everybody remembers it the same way, but they all remember it incorrectly?
Yeah.
I know what you're talking about. I don't know what it's called.
It's gonna drive me insane. Because it's like the Bernstein Bears.
Ah, yes. The famous Bernstein Bears hypothesis.
No.
Everyone reads the same Bernstein Bear book, and then they all remember it completely wrong, but they all remember it the same.
Well, it's freaking
Don't worry, you'll get there. Calm down, just slow it down. You'll get there eventually.
I'm doing fine. My Lanta. Golly. Mandela effect. My Lanta. It's interesting because people like think that the Mandela effect happens because the universe or they think it's like it's jumps in parallel universes, either that there was a shift that happened in our current like parallel universe.
Right.
Because if it's such a common misconception, if it's like almost a universal misconception, they're like, well, our memories haven't changed, and that would make sense if our memories haven't changed, but that used to be the case, but no, there's no documentation, there's no history of it ever being the way that everyone remembers it.
Right.
And people are like, oh, there's a rift in the universe, and it either corrected itself, or we've just jumped parallel universes for some reason.
Right.
And it's like supposed to be like the after effects or like the side effects of having that rift happen.
I had heard of the Mandela effect. I did not realize, I guess, that's what it was, I guess.
It's so crazy. I mean, some of the Mandela effect stuff is like...
Shit, man, that might be good topic for a different episode. Is just that in general. Yeah, but that's one of the biggest. God, now it's contagious, and you got me doing it now too. So thanks for that.
Sorry.
That's
sorry. Not sorry.
That's one of the biggest things about this theory is if for some reason he went through a rift or a wormhole, how did he get back? Like, how did he just randomly disappear?
I'd like to think that this as Doc Who describes the wibbly wobbly timey wimey stuff, like this rug that he uses as a metaphor. Right. I like to think that sometimes it like fixes itself.
Yeah. I mean,
it's like that doesn't work. But that also means that you believe in parallel universe theory.
I don't see why it couldn't exist.
I also don't see why it couldn't exist. I don't necessarily disbelieve in parallel universe theory.
I believe in the multiverse.
Do you believe in the fact that every time a decision is made, there's a new one that forms, so infinite amounts of parallel universes are consistently being formed?
I mean, I believe if the multiverse exists, that's how it works, yes. Because if that's not how it works, then it's not really a multiverse. In the sense that it has been explained. So
that's true. Or there could just exist like, okay, we have 1 million different parallel universes, and it exists, all of these parallel universes, they're all parallel to one another, but there's only 1 million of them, cap off. There are some things that never happen, and there's some things that always happen, but there's only 1 million different options.
So you're suggesting, like, kind of like in Doctor Who, where there are fixed points in time that you cannot change. There are fixed points in all of these universes where the same thing always happens.
Perhaps.
Okay.
I suppose I don't discount any multiverse theories.
Well, yeah. So, getting back on track, another theory suggests that, of course, I don't think we were ever really off track. We just kind of went off. Anyway, another theory suggests that he was a time traveler. My notes say WASS. WASS, a time traveler.
Oh, was a time traveler. Oh, this man was a time traveler.
Perhaps he was a time traveler.
He was a time traveler.
My wife.
The man from Taured is Borat. I'm from Taured. You know what? New theory. That guy just is Borat.
I'm from Taured. I've been here many times. I travel internationally. Look at my money.
I believe it.
Well, I know what the title of the episode's going to be now.
Borat from Taured.
Anyway, another theory suggests that he was a time traveler who maybe overshot or undershot his destination and landed himself in our time. This theory will allow for the escape because, after being confined to his hotel room and realizing something was wrong, surely he's got a device on him that he can just zip back to wherever he came from. So, the other one was that he was an alien who somehow landed on the wrong planet because, of course, anytime there's something that's unexplained, somebody goes, it's clearly f***ing aliens. That, however, does not explain the currency in his wallet.
Yeah, what kind of currency did he have?
It's just money from all kinds of different countries.
That previously existed.
Yeah.
Or that do currently exist.
Yes, and it wouldn't account for his fluency in several different languages that are only familiar to Earth. Or the fact that he was familiar with Earth. Like if this was an alien that just randomly landed on the wrong planet.
What if it was an alien that very intentionally landed on the wrong planet?
Well, if he intentionally landed here, he didn't land on the wrong planet, did he, Abby?
I suppose. I suppose so. I like the idea. I like the idea that this guy was just a really terrible spy. That he had all of this stuff. Like he's super fluent in a lot of different languages. Knows about international business. Has documentation that passes and that is certified, qualified. And people are like, oh yeah, this is real. Like this is authentic qualification, but it's from a place that they didn't know. And it's like, ooh, see now that's where they messed up.
Right.
Like that's where whatever agency this man was a spy from was like, oh, we're just gonna make up a place and then they'll just believe it because we don't speak Japanese. We don't understand that the Japanese people could, I don't know, see through the ruse of this fake half Spanish, half French country.
But he was fluent in Japanese then.
I'm not saying that the spy was an idiot, but I'm saying maybe whoever he was working for was.
Yeah, I mean, of course, how...
I mean, post-World War II, I would believe
Again,
it.
though, how did he get out of the hotel room? Like, the guards didn't see anything.
Spy stuff.
Spy stuff. She's got a teleporter. Physics! It all comes back to physics.
They put in radio signals and everything. I don't even know. They probably didn't have like security cameras, but like they were just like, and they were like, evacuate, get him out of there. The helicoptered in. I don't know.
There's only one way in or out of there.
Climbed through the air vent. His luggage self-exploded.
Just disintegrated.
Yeah.
So now we've come to the point where we have to actually solve this. So Abby, what's up with the man from Taured? Like, where did he come from? Where did he go? Where did he come from?
Cotton Eye Joe? Uh-huh.
Thank you for realizing where I was going with that. Was he even real? What do you think?
I would believe, people, there are different like psychological theories about how people remember things. And you can like go through some details, and as long as you hit the large points, you could probably like pick out like individual specific details, which is why people like lie in court and don't realize that they are telling, because they think it's true, because they've kind of been like suggested that it's true. So I think that it's like, I think you can't discount that there's probably some human error somewhere, whether that's in like, maybe, I don't know, like maybe it's in them checking his like passport and everything, or maybe it's in the way that he left, that maybe there is just some human error, and then like people were just like suggested, oh, he just disappeared, and people were like, yeah, and then people were like, oh, he disappeared, and then, but maybe it was like, oh no, he just like took the next flight back home, and some people were just like, yeah, he just vanished, like he just left.
So like it was a real story, but through telling and retelling and urban legends and stuff, it evolved into this, is what you're saying.
I'm saying that's, in my brain, that probability is probably the most likely.
Well, in my brain, if I were to look at this logically, which we don't do on this podcast,
thank God, honestly.
The most logical explanation is that it is just a myth and it never happened. Mm-hmm. Because even though there are people who have like, quote, eyewitness testimonies, there's no documentation of this anywhere.
Yeah, that's what is baffling.
So, that's the most logical. But I'll tell you what, we're not going with logic because I know what happened here.
Oh, do tell.
Here's what happened. This dude was sent back from sometime in the future where Taured was a country, and that was just a small thing that was overlooked, was that in the 50s it wasn't a country. And he's a really good actor. He's like, oh man, yeah, I'm from Taured, and like blah blah blah. And he was sent back to assess a situation in the past, possibly for to assassinate someone. I don't know. Maybe he was sent back to assassinate Stalin, so the Cold War couldn't happen. And upon realizing that they had made a mistake when they put him in the hotel room, he went ahead and just snapped back to his time. Like, he didn't do it until then because he had to wait until nobody was watching, obviously, But that's what happened. And the man from Taured's name was Ernest Borgnine. Didn't know Ernest Borgnine was a time traveler, did you? No, I don't know his name. Oh, I just know that's what happened.
I think what happened. I'm sticking with the bad spy theory.
I do.
I think what happened is
he's like just really shitty spies.
I think he was. Right post World War II. But pre like modern technology. They take this man and they say, okay, European nation, we want to go spy on the Japanese. This man worked for somebody in the UN, and wanted to spy on mega corporate Japanese companies, just to, I don't know, see how capitalism stuff.
So why is he in Tokyo?
I don't know. I don't know. It's just a theory.
Because I believe even today Tokyo is still imperialistic.
Yeah. But the Europeans don't know anything but capitalism. It's fine.
But the Europeans don't know capitalism, though.
It's just America. It was an American. Okay, right, so theory. This guy was a spy for the UN, and he knew all these languages because he used to work for...
keep going.
He used to work...
This is great, I'm enjoying this.
He used to work for the UN, and that's why he knows Japanese, right? It's because he was a translator. He would translate messages from Japan and he would try to interfere with in knowledge that being sent from Japan to other countries. And they're like, we're gonna send you to Japan so you can do some spy business. And he's like, sounds good, but won't they know I'm French? And they're like, no, they won't know that you're with us because we're gonna say you're from Taured. And he's like, sounds good. And then he just shows up and he's like, here's my passport, look at it, isn't it worn and super official? Here's my ID, look at it, isn't it super worn and super official? And they're like, do you think we're dumb? Do you actually think we're stupid? We know this isn't a country. And he's like, whoa, what do you mean? I'm
really enjoying the cadence of the story, by the way. Here's my passport.
I can't stop laughing through it. And then he's like, okay, well, they're like, okay, we're gonna isolate you so that, until we figure this stuff all out. Because I'm gonna be real, if you have somebody who's like completely undocumented from a country you're not from and like you don't really know what's going on, I'm impressed that they like let him into a hotel room instead of like in a holding cell.
Yeah.
Or at least that's what they would do here. And I think he was like, they've got us, boys. And they're like, all right, abort mission. There's a submarine. Just find your way to the ocean. And he's like, gotcha. And he just boop-a-doop spied out the window, climbed down the whatever, and then jumped in the ocean.
So I was with you till the very end. First off, there was only one way in and out of the hotel room, and that was through the door. There was no window. Secondly, I'm pretty sure Tokyo is landlocked.
Oh no, all of my theories. I don't know what his escape route was. Maybe it was a helicopter. Maybe it was a moped.
Why couldn't it be both of our theories? Like maybe it was a time-traveling spy who was really, really bad. Like they didn't realize that Taured was never a country. And so like... so why couldn't it be both? Time-traveling spy, really shitty spy. Who knows why he's in the past spying, but he is. And then that explains how he got away. It's because he used his time travel device and back to his own time.
Escape route.
Beluska we can too.
Jump in the time rift. Agent Borat, we're sending you a time rift. Make sure to jump through it. Bring your suitcase.
Regardless, I think we solved it, sort of.
Oh, 100%. At least 99.5%.
So there you have it, folks. That's another mystery down. The man from Taured, whether from the future or from our time, was just a really shitty spy. Perhaps his name was Borat. Perhaps his name was Ernest Borgnine. So I would like to thank Abby Rose of Personalized for joining me today.
Thanks for having me.
And where can people find you, Abby?
You can find me on Twitter at AbbyRoseVO, on Instagram at AbbyRose_MC. I think. I mean, you can listen to Personalized. It's in the Gravity Undone. We're on Pinecast and Spotify, and
I will attest. Personalized is really good. So.
We do interviews of people's, mostly in the voice acting.
What's your tagline? The person behind the person or something like that?
Yeah. See?
And your physical address and phone number in case people want to stalk you.
My government name is Cecilia Forsyth. My social security number is 1001001, which backwards is 1001001.
And I don't think enough numbers for a social security number. Cass didn't fall for that either. I really thought maybe we could get somebody. Nobody falls for the "hey, dox yourself" portion of the podcast.
I'm gonna steal your identity. This podcast, fun fact, another mystery solved. This podcast not real. It's just meant for stealing identities.
This podcast is sponsored by Abby Rose, whose identity I just stole.
Thank you.
So, in the meantime, guys, if you have a mystery that you would like us to solve on the podcast, or if you just want to threaten us, cyberstalk us, whatever you want to do, you can do that with a quick email to mysteriessolvedpodcast@gmail.com. And the Mysteries Solved Podcast is all one word. You can also find us on Facebook at Unsolved Mysteries Solved, or on Twitter at UMS_podcast. And thanks again to Abby Rose.
Thank you.
And join us next week when we tackle the mystery of why no one loves me. And remember, don't question us or you will be put down. As I've said before, I rule the mysteries corner of the podcast market with an iron fist and an iron will and an iron foot.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's becoming a problem. My body is slowly just turning to metal. I don't have long to live. In the meantime, we will catch you next week with a brand new mystery, guys.
Shut up, man. This is why I don't do these things in person.
Obsessed with UFOs and extraterrestrials?
Convinced there's a chupacabra in your backyard?
Is your doppelganger ruining your life?
Do you love all things haunting related?
If you answered yes to any,
or none of these,
then these are the mostly sensical, slightly drunken ramblings for you? Question mark? I'm Emily.
And I'm Joel, and we're the hosts of Drink Drunk Dead. Join us,
our two cats, Emma and Otto, and our house ghost,
every week as we have a few drinks, discuss all things paranormal,
and raise a toast to our ghosts.